Доброе утро, дорогие коллеги.
Good morning, dear colleagues.
Давайте приступим к нашей работе, нашей секции. Если кратко ее назвать, трехмерное моделирование. Это самое, наверное, перспективное сейчас.
I think this is the most promising area where we work currently. Present-day world has been developing its technologies all the time. As you know, changes touch up various areas, starting from very simple household areas all the way to designing complicated industrial systems such as airplanes or drilling platforms. 2D design, which provides for various flat drawings, is becoming history. 3D methods are coming to replace them. The benefit of 3D technology is that a designer can build a visionable, a realistic model. 3D model is very simple to understand, it's functional and flexible. 3D models are beneficial over 2D models. This is why companies all over the world have been introducing 3D models in their activities. And experts forecast that in the very near future, 3D model will totally replace 2D modeling. The 3D modeling has a key benefit in industrial design because it offers an opportunity to do a full-scale description of a model which does not exist physically yet. This is why industrial design is taking a quantum leap. While previously the designer had to offer a 2D model, today designers have to offer 3D modeling, which is at the interface with engineering. So today, let us discuss new challenges that we're facing due to changes in the civil code. Opportunities which offer our applicants to offer 3D models to attach them to their applications. Let's discuss here. What is this? What pros it offers to us? And what challenges it can pose to us as an agency that is doing its best to stay at the cutting edge of the scientific progress. We want to be a digital agency. This is why we have to be able to meet all present-day challenges. So, now I'd like to give floor to Ismail Kadiev. You have the floor. Good morning, dear participants of the conference of Rospatent. We're online from Polytechnic. We have invited people from the city. Thank you very much for coming. Yes, indeed, as Mr. Nagaev has said, 3D modeling is indeed a very topical issue for the digital economy. A lot has been done. We still have to do a lot. We have invited you here to understand how experts in this area, how patent lawyers, we have here patent lawyers, how people from patent authorities can understand where we're moving. Maybe as we discuss what is going on, we understand that we have done a lot, or maybe we will see that we will still have to improve some of the steps we're making. I think in this session we will be able to discuss this and to get feedback from you. Mr. Nagaev, as a moderator, I would like to give floor to the first speaker from the Polytechnical University, Mr. Vladimir Zaborovsky, professor of Higher School of Applied Mathematics and Physics. He'll tell us about his project. He's been at the very beginning of this project. So, Vladimir, you have the floor. Dear colleagues, it's a special honor and pleasure for me to participate in the 24th International Conference of Rospatent. The topic of this conference is related to the concept which we know very well, transformation. Transformation is also related to digital transformation of intellectual property. Well, clearly this is a topical issue. More than that, it is an irreversible process, and we have to be prepared to implement all this into real life. But our session is called 3D models. The topic of my presentation raises another concept, which is also quite important. It's the AI. In my report, which I have prepared as a report which describes certain promising outlooks for the use of AI, I will do my best to explain what are the benefits of using these new technologies in the context which we're discussing here. We are discussing about the development of AI. You all know these words very well, so I'm not going to follow the formal tradition. I'm not going to write formulae and describe the structure of neural networks. I'll do my best to follow the description of the problems which is related to the so-called technology of artificial intelligence in various applications, including industry, from the point of view of transformation of intellectual property. To make my report interesting from the point of view of the applied tasks that we're considering, we need to understand the gist of the idea, the gist of the problem. We need to understand the benefits of AI technologies offered to automation for purpose of a comparison and registration of IP items. The thing is that artificial intelligence is kind of a metaphor, so you need to be very clear when you discuss the benefits of these technologies, to structure them by parameters and characteristics which you can use. Now, as regards the context of the conference, I will describe the problem in a bit narrower way. The gist of what we're discussing now boils down to the fact whether we can create a system for automation of processes for registration of 3D models in order to accelerate transformation of IT with respect to IP. Why is it relevant to discuss all these issues today? And how is this related to our capacities at the Polytechnic Institute? Well, to start with, we have all the conditions for transfer from research to 3D models. This conference says that digitalization is an inalienable part of our existence. Digital technologies, 3D technologies are a part of the vast environment of 3D models. Furthermore, laws have been enacted with support from our colleagues from Rospatent and FIPS. Can you see the presentation? Can you see the presentation now? Yes, we can see it now. Right, thank you. Initiatives have been adopted, and changes to the Civil Code are now being considered, which will allow using 3D models as items for registration of IP rights, of copyrights. The WIPO has established a special target group. Furthermore, over the past years, prototypes of intellectual systems have been developed, which can be introduced already into real operations of Rospatent. What is important today? The gist of the idea we're discussing boils down to the fact that we need to understand what words, what definitions we can use. And an item of copyright is a product of reason of man, a product of thinking. It's intangible. Therefore, there are special features about registration of these items. The idea of artificial intelligence is a certain feature of intellectual systems which implies that it can carry out creative functions. So if we try applying AI systems in technologies, we should see what creation we can use. Usually, creative approach is forbidden in technologies, but this is not always the case. Sometimes this is not the case. So, as any intellect, which is capable of making errors, AI can also make errors. Therefore, there is no 100% guarantee that you'll get a reliable result when you use AI systems. But 3D means are automation systems, which allow you relying on the knowledge that you have acquired to calculate or rather obtain your knowledge carried by the input data. So previously we would say that programs can do something, but these programs have been prepared by people, and now AI systems get input data and make decisions using knowledge encoded in a certain way in this input data. So, how can you formalize knowledge about 3D models that can be used further on to automate expert assessments, to carry out recording, and to apply this in various economic applications, for instance, in industry, or to use them as copyright items that identify the value of the company, etc., etc. This is not an easy task, and let us try and discuss it in this session. To be able to understand what intellect is, you need to say very clearly that the formula understand intellect is impossible. If you cannot understand it, formalize it. To formalize intellectual functions, you need to understand what functions are solved by the human intellect. Unlike mathematical procedures, which are related to processing numbers, intellectual tasks are related to solving the task of looking for similarities in various items of nature. So instead of equality, which is used in mathematics, you get the idea of equivalence, tolerance, similarity, isomorphology, which is not supported yet. Therefore, we need to apply an innovative idea. Should be implemented technologically. So, what do we have? What results do we have to use in solving this task? First of all, we need to think how to solve this problem at the fundamental level. Solving this problem in principle. At present, if you look at this slightly overloaded picture, you see that the main focus in implementing the AI should be on comparing a certain digital measure with certain qualitative characteristics of a particular idea. Fundamental difference between algorithms of supercomputers and what we call AI lies in the following. How do we differ the number from the image? And in terms of formal approach, what's the difference between the ideas of equal and similar? There's no fundamental solution for this problem yet, although we have been able to implement certain ideas. We have been discussing this with our colleagues from the Federal Institute of Industrial Property. This idea is now being implemented. So what is important? We need to have a very clear connection between the problems that our patent colleagues are interested in and the existing AI methodology. We need to transform IP today. And the methodology of AI today is programming of certain classifier computers using certain sample images to come to logistic functions. This example shows you how AI systems work. So there's a certain statistical split. It is processed, then it is convoluted, and then this is used for interpretation. This is what we base our methodology of AI on. We need to understand very clearly that there's a stage where we gather data, then we need to convolute the data, we need to limit the ability of their use, and then we need to interpret the data. Clearly, we will never get a finite, complete solution using this approach. But this problem is fundamentally unsolvable. Digital formalization will always be not full today. This picture shows, this is the photograph of Kurt Gödel and his theorem, which says any formalization makes a system unfull. And Gödel used to say humanity is something more than just a machine. So if we want to say whether something is similar or dissimilar, we will always have to make this decision in a certain context. In other words, in technical terms, as we usually say at our institute, the efficiency of any formalization is always below 100%. So, in a system for decision-making based on AI, you should always have human intellect. Therefore, the idea of transformation and technology in the context of our conference is, while Descartes used to say in the 17th century, I think, therefore I am, today, all the digital transformation boils down to the fact that we can say, I compute, therefore I am. You need digital imitation of common functions, and you need to calculate the functions for target setting. This is the main idea of all the transformation processes, including the process we're discussing now. The main problem, like I said, is to calculate similarity and to do quantitative comparison. So the idea of AI is that we need to create a system, and the working hypothesis for the system is that we need to not reach full similarity between systems, between full equality, but rather to find a certain measure of similarity or dissimilarity, which is related to certain logical functions like yes and no. These algorithms can be implemented very quickly and effectively, and can be used in industrial systems, including systems for registration of IP items. Again, it is very important to understand that the system of AI is capable of solving tasks that the human conscience can decide. Therefore, we should work based on the concept of, rather than imitating the human intellect, we should add capabilities that will allow humans to solve creative tasks. We at our institute have this intellectual concept approach. Like an exoskeleton is just a part of a human body, which makes you stronger in certain aspects. The exo-intellectual system is a concept for creation of digital machines that will simplify for humans the task of solving creative tasks. So we give away to the machine what it can do best, like data storage, computation based on certain algorithms, and the human will always remain the system. The human will understand, will comprehend, and will set targets. If we stay within the terminology of intellectual capacities, then we can clearly solve lots of tasks. And these tasks are quite effectively solved already. For instance, the module of calculation of similarity is shown here. What is the idea? It is as follows. A 3D object has a lot of 2D projections. The number of these projections is practically indefinite. Therefore, if we want to compare them, it all comes to the fact from what point of view we look at them. If we look at them pixel by pixel, then there's no way we can solve it algorithmically. But we can proceed to a new technology, a new ideology. We need to create certain topological options, and this system allows us to formalize the requirements quite simply. The idea of this exosystem is that on any surface of any 3D item, you can place points, you connect them, and then you create the distribution of these connections, and you get a topological option, a topological version of the surface. You can work with this using neural networks, among other things. This slide, for instance, shows the Siamese neural network, where histograms are compared against each other. It is important to understand here that such histograms, such topological invariants, can be many. Therefore, we need to use a certain innovation. It is not so new. We need to use this approach when we use a multi-channel system for comparison. expert compositional neural networks get a lot of data at the input. Step or ICID objects and classes, various topological invariants, textures, etc. We process them, we get digital images, and these digital images can be compared using various approaches, including what we call neural networks, because this is basically just computers working a certain data flow at a very high rate. So approaches where we can compare systems using various input data will help us to improve the quality and increase the speed of calculation. This is an example of such an exo-intellectual model. What is important here, this is not an automatic, but an automated system. An automatic system working based on the AI principles, we know where it ended up, by Boeing 787 MAX. In some contexts, systems would not behave reasonably. Well, clearly, in this case, we need to use a legally sound approach. Experts will make final decisions. But to prepare data for experts, to reduce the time it takes to compare all the options, we need such a system. And the system should be in constant development. And decisions made by experts, data acquisition, data accumulation should take place, and the longer the system works, the more effective it should become.
What's important here, we can consider a complex system, and not only from the point of view of the system I've shown you, but when the complexity of the object is relevant from the point of view of information. But we could seek a structure with the vacuum inside, not only from, have to consider not only the density, but the space and intellectually relevant properties. And this property item could be working inside and inside out from the point of modulation. How do we model a topologic invariant? Well, we see a ball. This is a topological invariant. This is its construction. And the amount of points that we need to build such an invariant, it could be 1,000 points per surface. If we look at the Möbius surface, we can see that the invariant looks totally different way. In spite of the 3D objects, we can be looking at a 2D model, and we can compare those objects. They are obviously different. This is a torus. From the topological point of view, it's very similar to the Möbius surface. Well, that's very understandable that you can formalize this and use this as an input for a system for decision making. We have to consider the texture properties. These are the some surface properties from the topological invariance of an object. The methods that we have developed in our activity in the Institute of IP allows us to switch from one to another class of objects and to help the decision-making process of the expert community. And regarding the algorithm of calculation, it's very simple, and the speed of decision-making is very high, so there shouldn't be any kind of problem with the mass data treatments of applications. So the speeds of decision-making will substantially increase. And here we can consider different measures of similarity on dimensions or similarity. Well, we can provide our experts different criteria, and according to those provided criteria, they can choose the property of similarity to make the study. Well, what's important? That the prototype of this system has proven itself quite well from 2017. Well, we haven't made the multi-channel comparison models. We have applied the so-called Siamese neural networks, as we have an input on a sample, and it's been compared with the patented industrial designs, and this system works with a high precision, and it allows us to solve the issue, and it's not only by amount but in quality. Well, these are the different models of chairs. We can see the numbers, but the object is similar, and it is, well, in its function and different properties, we can set the amounts of comparison. For example, 94 units of parameters to be considered, and for its expert's evaluation, he will get this 100% of match. So the speed of decision making is higher, and the analysis of properties is at the highest level. Well, that's clear that the method is being developed. You can see a bottle with a void inside, well, an object with a tap, or a model without a tap. Well, that's definitely a model of intellectual property. So maybe you can see that the objects are different, while it's the very same bottle. So in a quite efficient way, we can manipulate with different criteria, and the perspective of the architecture of storage is represented. It's a multi-channel, multi-stages system. It unites all the models that are needed to make qualified and important decisions. Well, definitely, the industrial samples, industrial designs could be calculated with what's called calculated nets or networks. There is a huge application of such systems in different industries, in physical modeling, and so the perspective of such objects comparison opens a huge layer of economical perspective for the companies that apply such technologies. It is important that this black swan of digital transformation eliminates everything that's is performing as an obstacle, and the goal is to elevate the qualification of people so they can apply their competence and skills in the new fields of application. So the functions of the projected systems that could be allowed through AI is the optimization, first of all, is the support of a full cycle of development, is the creation of mechanism of maintaining the right for intellectual property, and definitely creating a database that can be make an ID analysis by use of different criteria. What it offers? Well, it makes the competence of the Russian products on the global market higher. It's the complementing of patent protection systems, the reduction time in design, and stimulate the creative activity of the inventors. Sanzi as the owner of the knowledge will be the beneficiary of the digital economics. So thank you for your attention. Thank you so much, Ismail Gajeevich. If you allow me, I'll take the floor, because we've been working for a long time with this Petersburg University. I haven't presented Ismail Gajeev, Director of the Center for Technology and Transfer and IP of the great St. Petersburg Polytechnic University. Thank you, Vladimir Sergeyevich, for a wonderful presentation. It's very interesting from the scientific point of view, because this problem haven't been solved anywhere in the world. I know it for certain because I'm working on this topic as well. So right now we could touch to state-of-the-art developments in the 3D modeling, and we've seen the scientific approach to these fields and what are the solutions being offered. Now, I'd like to note following the change of digital technology, of the 3D modeling models are also noted by intellectual property authorities, and so they are interested in developing new digital modeling in IP rights protection, and the models that are every time more complex should be complemented with the recently developed methodics. And to develop a pattern search, Japan has developed its own system of classification. It's based on the scientific application of industrial designs according to its form and its applications. And in FIPS, we look very closely to the modern demands in the patent rights. So I will now like to give the floor to the Deputy Director of Information Retrieval System Design, FIPS, head of the working group in 3D standards, Olga Fedoseva. Please, you have the floor. Thank you. I'd like to greet all the participants today. My reports will be dedicated to the application of the Russian practice in using 3D models on creating IP items. Well, first I'd like to start with the general sides of IP items in the application to the 3D modeling. Well, actually, due to the developments of informational technologies, the projecting and the design and visualization of such objects by authors, applicants are already made in the CAD systems and the graphical 3D edition software. So the object initially is created in such systems. Therefore, we use the traditional representation systems, object representation systems. In patenting, it's text, 3D model, but now we have the possibility to technically present it as in its initial state, so as the object being developed. And according to our data, we found out that the applicants occasionally have to transform their visual objects from 3D format to other kind of formats just in order to be able to apply for a patent. So on the stage of a life cycle of an IP item, on the phase of application, we are planning to accept that 3D models on the application states. We believe it will simplify the process of application preparation, and the expertise would also, the process could be more simple for the experts, for the examiners. It would optimize the terms, the costs, by considering the technical solution or the size of a trademark in all ways, and we believe that the problem solving in a rights violation would, by using 3D models, would allow to express the application of the objects. And then the publication of the objects in 3D formats would attract more investors and would allow to make the information more public in such stage as the life cycle of the transfer of data to the commercial structures will have advantages in the application of 3D models. So we believe that the approach that we offer would impulse the markets and the potential applicants by using CAD systems. To solve such a task, we needed to obtain some information from our applicants regarding the existing practice of use of tools, CAD tools, 3D modeling tools, and we have created a questionnaire for our applicants of use 3D formats and the interest of filing an application as by use of with attaching these 3D models. So it was needed in order to be sure there is a demand of such models, use of such models, and to develop the proper technical means so we could provide state services in qualified and efficient way. We have forwarded this questionnaire to the leading applicants, the major applicants, among them scientific institutes, R&D, defense institutions, patent lawyers, companies, and Rospatent have received from 74 responders, and by studying the results, we can come to the conclusion that 66% are interested in submitting a 3D model to Rospatent as part of the application. About 11 are not interested, and 23 of them are unclear. And more than a half already used CAD tools, 3D modeling tools, for modeling IP items. So we have to note that the majority of applicants are now designing their objects by use of 3D and CAD tools, in industrial tools and trademarks. Well, that's understandable because dimensional 3D trademarks is a part of such items, IP items, but in order to create 3D trademarks, CAD tools are also being used. And also our responders have been offered to state the format of files that they use while submitting such objects. The most popular, as we believe, before the study, the DWG, STL, STEP, 3DS, and the responders in their responses used STEP, which is an analog of STP, which together means a major popularity for this STEP format. We have studied the question of different software being used. Among the leaders is the Russian Compass 3D, also known company, the AutoCAD, SolidWorks, and Autodesk 3D Max. These are the systems that use the vast majority of responders. The first part of such research was about the extended use on the industry, and the second part was dedicated to the interest of using this format in the future, in terms of using those formats as part of the application to Rospatent. And we have found out that 76.5% of responders are considering using such formats in the future. So the numbers are telling us that in generally, applicants are interested in having the possibility to be able to attach 3D models to the applications. So, according to our study, we have identified the most expanded formats in application to the IP, because, well, the world of 3D is very diverse. There are some aspects like the virtual reality or 3D animation and, well, specific areas. And what we wanted to find out, which are the tools that the specialists use, especially the applicants, in order to understand how should we design our informational systems. And well, the popularity is only one of the criteria that we used to make a list of the formats that would be accepted in Rospatent. Also, we had offered several other criteria, such as whether the format is open or closed, open source or documented, so they would allow the long-term storage properties regarding the item during all the time while the rights is valid, the cross-platform of the software, as the applicants and authors use different tools to create their IP items and objects. It is a requirement, it's a must, that the majority or all the applicants have the possibility to easily convert those formats to the formats accepted by the IP authority. So the general standard for the standards, if the format is standardized according to the ICSO, that's an advantage. And such properties of the object as detalization, the detalization level of the surface, the texture, and also for some specific objects as chemical formulas or genetical chains, there are some strict demands and special formats for such items or objects, which are different from the formats used in the industrial design. Accordingly, the results of this research, we are planning to apply them in a practical way by developing our informational systems. This will be the basis that will allow us to create a storage for the items or objects. And so once accepting such applications, storage of such items, we can be speaking about creating a search engine that could be used during an expert's research. We need to study the possibility to make the search among 3D objects and the integration with the existing systems of 3D images. It's an important aspect that we have to consider during designing the systems, because there is a huge amount of 2D models. So we need to integrate new formats with the existing ones. Well, on the next stage of the life cycle of an object, once the object has been granted a permission, there is an process of exchange with other authorities, exchange of information, and the standardization is very important. The results of our study and our proposal on choosing the formats and we're not only going to be using this in problem solving in Rospatent as an authority, but we Also would like to propose this on the sixth section of the Standardization Committee on WIPO. The Russian Federation had proposed regarding the use of standards of these objects on different stages of life cycle, and there was a support of this proposal, and there was a work group that was created, and as the head of this work group, the Rospatent was assigned as a leader, and we're working on standardizing the approach. Not so many authorities are using 3D objects nowadays for applications, during the application, but it's quite an important issue.
Because technologies are developing, and it's quite clear that there'll be more and more items in this area. So our agencies will face tasks to use them. Furthermore, we will need to develop new search systems. Use new approaches. Use best practices. Research new opportunities. And we hope that Rospatent, in this respect, will take the lead one way or another to set the pace. Well, this is basically it. I think my presentation has come to an end. I've offered you a general review of the situation. Olga, thank you very much. I would like to add a short comment with your permission. So, I would like to draw your attention to the following. The Russian Federation, although we are cited in various international researches, still, until recently, we were on the periphery of this market. And we demonstrated a lot of demand for industrial design rather than a big market of developed services. Therefore, analyzing the best practices and experience is a most important stage whenever we discuss development of the automated system. As part of international cooperation with other countries, we have explored foreign experience quite a lot with respect to researching the novelty of industrial design. For instance, we considered materials from the Japanese and Korean colleagues on 3D modeling and 3D modeling software. Checking the compliance with the requirement for novelty is the key issue in our operation in accordance with law and industrial design. The novelty is assessed based on main features of the item, which are available worldwide. This way of offering a good assessment of similarity is extremely important. There's also a shortage of developments due to many factors that come into play when the patent expert has to work. For instance, we need an information system until recently that has to be well structured. Information about samples should be well grouped based on various features such as the target, the functionality, the composition, and the external view. Furthermore, we need to identify criteria to be able to assess competitiveness of this sample, this design, versus the existing patented samples. Looking for similarities, and the similarities is a fundamental task for identification of the form, for clusterization and expert assessment. But you have to face tasks. For instance, you cannot look for 3D models based on work because it doesn't work in many algorithms. The name of the model and the keywords depend on the culture, on the language, on the features, on the way you create 3D models and many other factors. So, in analog row, you need to base on key features of the 3D model, the shape of the model. The task of comparing these shapes follows from the fact that in order to compare two surfaces, as Mrs. Borovsky has already mentioned, you have to compare the similarities between these two surfaces. You need to make the surfaces as similar as possible to each other. In searching for such similarities, you need to focus on the way you develop the methods for comparison based on the human approaches. At the same time, we face the task of looking for dissimilarities between such models, their fragments. You need to analyze the texture and the color solutions. Furthermore, account for the space structure. For instance, workbenches or motorcycles or many other items. Or solutions which form a whole set. Therefore, you need to take into account all these aspects when you look for similarity and dissimilarity of the models, to be able to make a decision whether to apply for a registration of industrial design. In view of the above-mentioned features, for the similarities and similarities between models, we need to raise this topic because it is of paramount importance and it can change Russia's status in the global ranking. In the next 10 to 15 years, we will see a revolution in this respect. This will lead to cardinal change in the market. So, while promoting state-of-the-art developments and patenting of industrial design, Russia will be able to catch up with the leaders in this respect. Based on support from international organizations, we will be able to create a favorable climate for good connections with other countries. This should be supported by a very good technology basis. This is why I would like to give floor now to Elena Sorokina, Deputy Head of the Center for Monitoring the Quality of Industrial Property, Head of the Department for General Legal Issues. This is our department that is in charge of methodology, and Yelena is going to tell us how our institute is solving these questions. Yes, Yelena, you have the floor. Good morning, dear conference participants. I'm very glad to welcome all of you. The purpose of my presentation is to inform you about the initiatives that are being implemented, that have been implemented. These initiatives are related to the introduction of 3D models required to present patented or to be patented industrial designs and to release an electronic protection document with respect to all the copyright registered by Rospatent. The Rospatent initiative has already been reflected in the federal law number 217, which comes into force on January 17, 2021. And at present, a large-scale work is underway to implement opportunities aimed to make these changes in the law possible. The federal law was developed as part of the national program Digital Economy, and the changes that this law introduces into the civil code are aimed at the largest possible transformation of the legal protection process in order to obtain exclusive rights to protected objects. As a result, electronic services, government services provided by Rospatent that are related to state registration of IP, intellectual related to the intellectual property and means of individualization, all electronic services will be provided in full. The applicant will be able to submit an application electronically, and then, after this service is provided, to get an electronic protection document. Changes made in the Civil Code provide for a new document, an application in the form of a 3D model. And like I said, a new electronic form of the protection document for all the objects registered by Rospatent. 3D models are, in accordance with the law, part of the application, which identifies the date of application. When the application date is the same as the priority date, then this document will be used to identify the priority. This question of priority identification is related to the disclosure of the patented object. This is why 3D models, using 3D models in patenting industrial designs and trademarks is aimed to help the applicant to disclose the patented object in full and to claim for their rights directly for items with difficult shape. The law doesn't provide for any special requirements that have to be posed for such an item, for such an object, when a 3D model is used in the application. This is why, to be able to apply for industrial design, an applicant has to proceed from the general rule provided for by Article 1377. In accordance with this article, the image of the item presented in the form of a 3D model should give a full idea about the important, significant features of the industrial design that identify the special features of this item. The Civil Code doesn't regulate directly any requirements with respect to the disclosure of the trademark. At the same time, based on the idea of the trademark, the way we see the trademark in the form of a 3D model, this should also disclose the dominant features of the trademark that will help the user to create an associative connection between the trademark and the right owner. Inventions and utility models also use this approach of 3 models. At the same time, the law categorizes 3D models as a document which clarifies, which offers clarification aimed to understand the idea of the utility model. Alongside with descriptions and drawings of inventions, 3D models also aim to interpret the features and the formulas in order to identify the exclusive rights owned by the applicant. When we aim to understand the benefits and the opportunities that the law on 3D models introduces, well, I can say that these benefits are as follows. 3D models and using present-day digital technologies to disclose the object will help the applicant to present this object in full for expert assessment, for patentability assessment of such an object. And this disclosure will then, later on, play an important role for patent strength. And it is also critically important to identify the scope of exclusive rights in case of any disputes related to violation of the patent for invention or utility model. I would like to focus on one more thing, a slightly different change that is related, that follows from introduction of three models for patented objects. We all know that the exclusive right is provided to the applicant in response to full disclosure of information about the solution that the applicant is asking for exclusive rights for. And in this respect, industrial designs, trademarks, as part of the 3D model, will entail the development of the respective electronic form to support the exclusive rights of the applicant, and most importantly, to make public aware about the full information on the patented object. In view of this, and this is the purpose that we try to reach by introducing the electronic protection document and the publication of electronic data on publication of such documents, when both the applicant and the right holder, but also the public, can receive full information about the scope of exclusive rights which cannot be violated in course of business operations. In order to implement the second change related to the implementation of electronic patent, Rospatent and FIPS have prepared proposals on the concepts of such an electronic protection document. I will dwell on only a number of features that can concern the applicant. What will electronic patent, electronic certificate look like? The fact that an electronic patent is issued will take the shape as follows. The access code will be provided that will provide access to the applicant's electronic cabinet at the Rospatent website. A decision to issue this code will be made after the object in the application is registered. Issuance of an electronic patent will depend on payment of the fee. Alongside with the electronic document, a patent on paper will also be issued, provided that the applicant has requested for it. Therefore, the applicant that would like to get a document in paper form can submit such a request to Rospatent, pay the fee, as is the case at the moment in accordance with the existing law, and then receive this protection document. What is the difference between the electronic protection document and the paper document? An electronic document will be accompanied by an electronic excerpt from the state register. This excerpt will contain not only the literature, data on the literature, but also all the data about the right holder and the protected object. And in case a patent for an invention is issued, such an electronic excerpt will also contain a description, the forum, the invention, all the formulae, drawings, and clearly a 3D model in case such a 3D model have been provided by the applicant as part of the application. Issuance of an electronic document will offer broader opportunities for using such a document in our lives. The applicant will be able then to download such a document to its electronic devices, but most importantly, will be able to submit this document to other agencies and authorities in case they need to confirm their exclusive rights. One more point I would like to make. This concept of the electronic patent provides for an ability to keep the conventional form of patent approved by the order of the Ministry of Economic Development and used currently. This conventional form of the patent will be not only on paper, but also the applicant will be able to use the access code and will be able to see this electronic form. This electronic patent will be able to print it, and this will help to support the existing tradition with respect to this document which confirms the applicant's exclusive rights. The changes that have been made in the federal law 217 will call for a large-scale work aimed to amend all the norms and regulations below this law. More than 20 government services will have to be amended. This is large-scale work. It has been already started. It is underway. And I believe that by January 17, 2021, the applicants will be able to use the benefits in full, benefits of electronic patenting of IP objects provided for in the new law. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much, Yelena. We've heard all the presentations of the speakers, and now I suggest that we start asking questions. Dear viewers, we're on YouTube, so you're welcome to ask your questions on YouTube. I have already received certain questions. For instance, many people are concerned by the following. How do we submit applications for 3D models? How will this be carried out? What will be the file format? And the main question that concerns our applicants, whether IP can be copied and printed on a 3D printer. I suggest that Olga Fedoseva answers this question, because she's in charge of this question. She's been working with it very closely. Right. Right. As regards the formats, these regulations are currently being approved, but we have a tentative list. It's going to be step STL, ABG formats, PRC, and UFD. The latest two formats are natural for the 3D models. Clearly, many applicants are concerned that their rights can be violated in one way or another if a 3D model is published as is, if it can be easily reproduced using a 3D printer. On one hand, I don't think that all objects run this risk, actually, because by far not any industrial design can be printed on a household 3D printer, because there's also the issue of materials which you need to make it, the size of the object. So it is not always that easy. On the other hand, we have thought about it too. This is why 3D models will be published as part of a 3D PDF. So these objects will be included in a 3D PDF, and this makes it technically very difficult to use models as is. you should really exert a lot of effort to break this file, to get access to it. So things that will be accessible to general public will be most probably in 3D PDF. It will not be easy. It will be impossible to easily print them out. One more thing I would like to add. I almost forgot. Specific formats. As regards chemical formulae, we will accept CDX and MOL formats. So these formats are slightly different from formats currently used for design in CAD/CAM systems. I hope I have answered your question. Thank you, Olga. There's another question which is very close to this one. Do you intend to accept genetic sequences in 3D model? I think it borders on the question we have just discussed. Maybe you would continue. Well, as far as I know, MOL format is also used for genetic sequences. But if we need to use other specific formats, we will have to work on this. Maybe we'll need to extend the list in our regulations. But basically, the MOL can be used as a format for genetic sequences. Thank you, Olga. We have received another question from the net. People are asking how you're going to carry out search in this system in case of 3D model. I think I will address this question to our distinguished colleagues from the St. Petersburg Polytechnic University. Ismail, please. Colleagues, the issue of search is directly related to the fact of the following. What technical means are we going to use to describe a 3D model? So far, the main measure, the qualitative measure in the 3D model concept is 3D. Well, clearly, at present, the search has been related to a very clear description of the features. I have mentioned that at present, this pixel by pixel, dot by dot description, typical of mathematical model, takes a lot of efforts, and in practice, it will mean great delays. So we believe, and I mentioned this in my presentation, that we're going to develop 3 types of descriptors. We already have them. These are going to be markers that we will be able to use to identify very clearly the position of an item, of an object. The thing is that any database can form these descriptors and use them in the future. But what is important for our tasks related to IP objects? Talking of industrial design, we need to have a very clear connection to ICID classification. So these descriptors should be related to this international classification of industrial designs. We can create a composition description in this description, which will identify some semantic characteristic of the object. So the class of the ICID object. 2, the search will be carried out using the topology invariance. We will compare certain surfaces and their shapes, and we will relate characteristics describing the application of these objects. So it will be a 3D, a multi-dimensional characteristic, a multi-dimensional search. So what we will be getting back from these systems will be models that we can use and localize their features. So the search issue is the issue related to creating descriptors. These descriptors have to be made in accordance with the ICID. and they have to be mathematically viable. They'll also have to take into account the texture, materials, and other additional characteristics of these items, of these objects. So this problem is difficult, but it is solvable, and we can solve it step by step, part by part, the way I have just described. So this is basically it. Colleagues, any other questions? Because this is quite a large topic, isn't it? Thank you. So, furthermore on this topic, how do you prepare data for such a search engine? How do you input it in simple words, in simple approximation, if we talk about it as a layman?
Well, colleagues, this is a quite complicated matter from the technical side, but we see it in this following way. Any IP object is a structure. This structure has a set of properties, descriptors, and those descriptors, I'm forced to use this word, a set of parameters. So automatically, on any 3D model, as the colleagues mentioned in the step format, to generate those descriptors and to use them in indexing and storing the objects in our system. Well, just a month ago, in the Polytechnic University, we launched, in the best meaning of the word, well, the most efficient system in the country and 18th on its efficiency in the world, a hyper-convergent system of data storage. It's not just the storage system, just a database based on records, but the storage with attachments to different objects to a semantical structure. Well, we call it it's a kind of a task memory that can be applied in terms of storing IP objects. So the technical basis of such a system is already available, and scaling is just an engineering work. So we should have a context storage, obviously, or a hyper-convergent integrated system, not only storing digital records, but some background context information as well. This is the way we see it. Thank you. Another question regarding international standards. I'll address it to Olga Igorevna Fedoseva in the work as a part of work group on international standards. The question is the following: whether there are any worldwide accepted standards in 3D models in IP legislation. Well, presently, right now only the WIPO is still developing a project on such standards. And, well, the results of the question I've mentioned will be discussed on the next meeting session of the WIPO. And later on we'll work on the text of the recommendation with an active participation of Rospatent, I hope, and the authorities that's part of the work group. So probably not in the nearest future, but we are hoping to develop such recommendations. Thank you. Next question from our viewers. What are the technical issues that we're going to be solving in terms of automation, automating the system? This is a question for our colleagues from the St. Petersburg University. Well, the technical part of my presentation, well, first, what I want to say, the system must be automatic. The means of any search engines by means of AI or any other, the final decision anyway is being taken by an expert. It's a part of the natural activity of the natural intellect. The question is how to ease, how to facilitate the decision making and to improve the quality and speed of decision making. And so the technology that we are applying is not a creation of an automatic system as understand it in the 60s, an automatic control system, but an exo-intellectual system. In an automatic control system, the data is stored as a structure. In our system, the data is stored as data, even if it sounds as a redundancy. The knowledge as data that we can store in electronic storage will be the basis of such system. Through this stored data, we can make the requests according to the received applications, and the competent decisions will be made upon the results of comparison of the presented objects in an application with the previously registered IP objects. So, well, there's many technical issues that should be solved, and so what are the solutions and what are the best solutions? I believe that in the nearest future, in the frame of the projects in development, we'll be able to provide. I believe that the development will be successful, and in a year also we'll see the first intellectual property system. This would be my answer. Thank you so much, Vladimir Sergeyevich. We have a complex question here. I believe all the present colleagues should be answering. The question is, what are the new competences or skills should have our applicants or IP attorneys as they file their application? Well, Ms. Sorokina? Well, I believe more we're talking about skills rather than competence from the points of view of description of the objects and evaluation whether it could be protected if the attorney or a specialist can make such an analysis, such a study. The use of 3D objects in patenting doesn't change too much the whole situation, but well, probably we should be talking about skills or competence in technical fields. If there are many formats that can be used in this field, so you should have the skills and abilities, so the applicants could be using the most adapted format for filing, for developing this 3D model in terms of filing the application. This is the way I see it. Thank you.
Да-да-да, Владимир Сергеевич, я хотел передать вам слово уже, как говорится, как научному сотруднику, именно с точки зрения фундаментальной науки.
I wanted to give you the floor, the latest as a representative of fundamental studies. Dear Olga Igorevna, maybe we should train the users. What do you think? Well, probably we're talking about skills because we lost some functionality in the electronic service, this service of electronic application processing, but basically it's just another type of object, another format where you could upload the files. So probably we're talking about skills. And by expanding these functionality, we will allow the users will train them in the use of the system. And regarding those competences that already have the inventors, well, I believe they already have the competences because they already create the models in CAD systems. So it's not just like mandatory to transform their 2D blueprints into 3D models is just to be considered by the applicants. It's a possibility, it's an option. So should they already have them in their systems, it won't be a major problem for such specialists to save the file in the proper format and to attach it to the application. And this is the way I see it. Thank you, Olga Igorevna. Now, people of science, Ismail Gajievich, Vladimir Sergeyevich. Well, dear colleagues, I agree with Olga Igorevna that those people that create objects, they are fully qualified, but probably the root of this question is how to use the system that's been designed for an efficient work. And in the framework of the project we're developing, we should consider a training block. Is not that we do not have a trust in their competence, but it would be probably a specific training in terms of transformation of formats. So we are planning to have a self-educational block in terms of application of this system for the applicants to be able to make a training online and then proceed to filing the application online. So this it's a self-training tool that would focus on those specific, probably complicated matters. And so this tool will allow to train any time and then proceed to use this tool. This is the way I believe we should proceed. Thank you, Vladimir Sergeyevich. Well, I have a question in YouTube from Aliona Che regarding the topology of integrated circuits. Dear Aliona, well, the topic of our section doesn't really match the question you're formulating, so I would ask you to contact me directly. But I'm very sorry, but I cannot go into particular issues right now. Personal issues. Well, we have an interesting question as well. Well, how we're going to be used this amount of data we already have stored before the support of 3D models, all the information on 3D objects as we live in 3D worlds. All this data has been stored in terms of blueprints with 6 different projections. And there is a question from a viewer, how are we going to be applying or using this information? We cannot just throw it away. How can we use those 2D objects in 3D search? Dear colleagues? Well, probably I can reply to this. Well, we are not substituting one object by another. By admitting 3D objects doesn't mean we're not going to be admitting or accepting 2D models, 2D objects anymore. Sometimes you need to have a blueprint to describe the purpose of an invention, and those 2 amounts of data will exist simultaneously. We have a plan in order to integrate the search in 2D and 3D objects. Well, the technical aspect is another question. I believe that we'll be able to make such a system. We are starting projects on terms of work with the 3D models. Well, theoretically, by means of use of AI to recreate 3D objects from 2D blueprints. But I don't think we will go that way. I believe that we'll use strictly the materials provided by the applicants in its due time, but they will coexist, I believe. So for the objects, we will use for the 3D models. We'll use 7 views from 7 different perspectives, and probably we'll use it as an input for a search within a 2D database. Blueprints database. So the experts will be able to perform the search fully. I believe I've answered the question. Thank you, Olga Igorevna. Dear colleagues from St. Petersburg. Well, I totally agree with Olga Igorovna. A parallel reality should exist. Well, because from a 2D model to rebuild a 3D model is just a capability of a Russian consciousness, of human consciousness. Sorry. And like recreating the cranius or the face from the cranius. So it will be within the competence of those people that will have the information. All those systems should exist in parallel, and there will be a convergence of the market of 3D models. That's 13 points. I believe that the 3D systems will replace the 2D systems one day, as it happens with the CAT or Chi systems. Thank you, Vladimir Sergeyevich. Well, we'll return a little bit to the previous question. Somebody from the St. Petersburg University, or skills in terms of submitting an application with the 3D model. Ismail Gachevich. Well, I believe Vladimir Sergeyevich already replied to that.
У нас есть предложение готовы участвовать в обсуждении. Если разрешите ставить слово Юрию Осиповичу.
Well, let me give the floor to Yuri Osipovich.
Ну, нажмите кнопку, пожалуйста.
Well, hello, dear colleagues. First of all, I'd like to thank the organizers for to make this meeting possible. It's a meeting with the future. It doesn't require any basis, but I'd like to point out a few points, probably for myself, and probably it will lead to some reaction from Moscow in the right understanding. Well, we are meeting here and we're discussing the major topic, which is the defense of IP rights. Well, industrial designs, utility models. Well, the property of industrial designs are the images. The properties of an invention are words. I believe everybody agrees to that. So we've mentioned the keywords during the process of defending of IP rights. Is the expertise, registration, and publication. Let's separate industrial designs and inventions and utility models of technical solutions. Regarding industrial designs, it's quite clear. The presentation of the objects as a 3D model, it's definitely something with a future, but the issue is how to digitalize. Well, if you're talking about automatic expertise, what do we do with the stored information, how to make it automatic? The problem of publication, well, not all the people have the means to read 3D files, SolidWorks, CAD, and well, there are less problems than for an invention, but it's a wonderful project for me, for those who will be working with the automation processes. You can earn money with that, and from this point of view, I can congratulate the initiators of this process, but the inventions, I'd like to focus on that. It's words, basically. So the 3D models can be considered, in this case, not only as a replacement for blueprints, but as different, additional materials. You see, the patent of an invention is not granted just like that. It's a question of the application, the use of an invention, the use of products in the patent form and the understanding of the patent form. To understand it, we can use it on basis of a description or images. But what images? Well, blueprints. And what is it 3D? I can rotate it in any axis. I can see it's in one way, and another person see it in another way, and the third person doesn't see it at all. So
there's even a certain norm that stipulates that if a single understanding of a certain view is possible, you can include this into the description, which in my view is already inadmissible. Because we're talking about features of a pattern formula based on a description, and drawings are there only to understand this description properly. In view of this, a 3D model is clearly an additional opportunity, but only to understand the description. This is clearly good, this is clearly great. But all the technology problems related to publications and the ability of a simple person to receive the soul and read the soul is still there, still remains. The only thing which does not exist is the problem with search, because the patent documents related to technical solutions are not searched for based on images. We select based on images. When the search system offers a certain list with illustrations of documents selected, but systems search based on keywords and other parameters. So everything's all right with the search so far. Another comment. I think Rospatent or the agency in charge of it, I think the Rospatent in the first place, has skipped a certain step. The plans are quite ambitious, but still it is a bit vague. I think a very important stage has been skipped in terms of technical solutions. Today, when we submit drawings, there are certain restrictions. We cannot provide them in color, we cannot provide them in certain shades, but only lines, black and white. etc., etc. This is related to copying, and this is quite clear. The requirements are quite clear. But I've had many times to present drawings from 3D models, drawings for application documents. And every time I thought to myself, you need to try your best and to show this picture properly using only the outlines. But if I could present a pseudo 3D drawing, in color and in all different shades, but in a proper PDF file, that would really simplify things, both for applicants and for experts, but also for those who use this patent information. So, you know, I think that in our attempts to go all the way up high to the heights of AI, we have forgotten about this opportunity. But this is very important. I'm very sorry for taking so much time, but I think that it is important because for technical solutions, 3D models don't solve the main problem, the problem of legal protection. It is simply another set of materials that helps to understand better the technical idea behind the invention. Nothing more than that. So, with respect to 3D models, because we're in the very beginning of this conversation, I would divide these areas: industrial designs, technical solutions, etc. They have to deal with totally different sets of tasks and totally different requirements. So these are the thoughts I wanted to share with you. Maybe a bit unstructured, I'm very sorry, because it is off the top of my head. This is what I see from my practice. Thank you. Thank you, Yuri. Thank you very much. You know, I wanted to say that we all here in the session maybe are a bit unclear in our words, because this area is so new, so novel, that you can be inventing solutions as you go. We're at the cutting edge of science, at the cutting edge of technology. So, Yuri, thank you very much for your thoughts, very interesting thoughts. We're getting more and more questions. As you were speaking, you will receive the new questions. What is so special about IP objects with respect to 3D modeling, such as inventions or trademarks? What is specific with respect to using this additional data with respect to IP objects? Olga, can you take this question? Yes, I think I can, very briefly. I fully agree with the previous speaker. We realized that these are different objects and they require different approaches to solve these problems. So when we're talking about industrial design or trademarks, this means that its shape in particular with respect to IT, right? Because I'm looking at it from the IT perspective. So the main aim here is to prevent any distortion of the form, of the shape of the object, so that all the main features and sources of this industrial design are reflected. Furthermore, there was a comment about publications, how the applicant is going to see this, how third parties are going to see this item. Yes, we do have this task. Rather than forcing the user to buy complicated CAM software or other geographical software, we can publish everything in a 3D PDF. At the moment, it is carried out in 3D PDF, and this object is included as a 3D model. Or maybe there'll be certain web interface applications which will not require any additional efforts from our users, so that they don't need to use this efforts to understand what has been published. As regards the difference and the specificity, well, we understand that it is just another pack of material for the invention. It is not the only material that the applicant has to provide. And again, the applicant won't have to provide this only in this form. This will be only based on the applicant's wish. If the applicant wishes to add material using this object, then the applicant will have this opportunity. But this is not mandatory. This does not restrict the applicant in any way in traditional, in conventional ways of submitting the applications. Clearly, this will all stay, including the drawings, as it is now. We do realize the task, and we know that the search engine for inventions and utility models are quite special. They will not aim only to work with 3D models. It is an important task of our information systems of the future, but this is not the only part. So, I think adding these objects will not be in the way of the existing expert assessment processes. Thank you, Olga. And we have a question from the net. I would like to ask this question to our colleagues from St. Petersburg. I know they are limited on time. They have their next session planned. Afanas Vinokur asks this question: how are you going to include or compare volume features in case you're describing all the features of the invention? Ismail, very briefly, if you can. Vladimir, I think you can take this one, because they're the main developer, right? Colleague, the question is quite complicated. The thing is, there's the shape and there are technical features. To me, the test question is the industrial design related to the finite element method. What is so special about it? This is a 3D object, and any element in this object has a qualitative characteristic. Comparing them is possible, but only by applying various options of the descriptors. The accuracy of this network with respect to the objects we're going to assess. What is the huge benefit in terms of engineering practices? When I know that this object is patented and is used, let's say, for modeling of 3D in certain turbulence, I don't need to create this net myself. I can simply acquire it as certain IP object on various licensing terms and conditions. What do I imply when I'm saying that I need to buy a 3D network of the finite element method? I buy the shape and I buy the code which can be executed to apply this model for my own purposes. So clearly, if we're talking about such objects, qualitative, we need to use also a set of characteristics and the program code and the way to implement it. That is the way I see it. Thank you, Vladimir. You know, I wanted to ask questions, but we are getting not only questions, but also good wishes. Lyubov Karchemna is writing excellent reports from the St. Petersburg Polytechnic University. I would like to express my deepest respect. We still have great scientists in Russia. Yes, I fully support you on this. Colleagues, thank you very much. And now I'd like to go back one step. Yuri has raised this topic. I'd like to give floor to Yelena Sorokina. Yelena, what do you think? What will you say on the topic that Yuri has raised? Are we going back to I think in simple terms, to what extent 3D models are required and how can they help us in respect to legal protection? This is in simple terms. Well, I think we have all come to the same conclusion, to the same understanding, that 3D models are a tool that the applicant can use to disclose useful information about the utility model in full, because a 3D model, if it is presented as part of the application, will identify the scope of exclusive rights that the applicant is asking for. And this 3D model approach that the public will know will show the scope of protection. This is why industrial design and 3D models in patenting the industrial design have special features. And these special features are related to patent protection and the identification of patented rights. As regards inventions of and utility models, 3D models, as has been quite correctly said, have a different purpose. They are indeed used to understand and to disclose such a technical solution in the description. And they are used to this end, to interpret the features of the formula in the description. And this is, they're used to understand the idea of the technical solution. And this purpose entails another set of requirements to the way the invention is presented in the form of a 3D model. So I'm quite satisfied by the fact that we have common understanding of the problems and the benefits that the applicant is going to receive. Now, the fact that we're just in the beginning of this process is another issue. So we will only be able to see a full picture after we have gained certain experience. And maybe not only in Russia, but after the working group on 3D model standardization will also have come to a certain solution, will also have developed their recommendations. But this is a promising area, and this will definitely be interesting for all agencies and for applicants that would like to patent the results of their intellectual activity. Thank you, Yelena. Yes, please. Unfortunately, we need to leave the hall, so I'd like to wish all of you to complete successfully. As far as I see, the questions raised by Yuri will require many more events, many more meetings. I would like to thank all of you. We need to switch off, unfortunately. Thank you very much. Goodbye. Thank you very much to you, Ismail. Thank you. Thank you very much to you and your colleagues. I think that we're reaching the end of the session as well, because we don't have any more questions and the time is running out. The only thing I would like to say now that we're in the beginning of the very long way. We're only trying to look for the ways to solve these problems, both in technology terms, but also in terms of methodology. So I would like to congratulate all of us on the opportunity to tap on this broad topic. So I encourage our viewers to submit their questions, to stay in contact with the Federal Institute of Industrial Property. I'd like to thank all of you for your participation. Thank you very much. Goodbye. Yes, I would like to support this wish. Please get in touch with us directly, because our feedback from the users will help us to develop all our solutions in a more effective way. Thank you.
что на рабочем месте подготовил, бегом сейчас на планшет все закидывал и бегом сюда. Поэтому все как-то первые 3 минуты... А?
Всем понравилось.
Кому всем?
Всем мне понравилось.
Спасибо.
Ну, все отличное обещание, отлично ветрушка, запись, ну, все качество отличное, там, ну, кое-когда там, когда сила вечно такое ощущение, когда на Ничего страшного, отлично все.
Ничего страшного, я тебе кладу планшет, бегом сюда. Прямо в смысле бегом, не весело, по дороге встретил. Он знает, поржал, наверное.
Ничего, я знаю. Бегущий военный мгновенно вызывает панику.
Да. Первый успешный.
Все нормально, все отлично пошло. Вещание было в двух языках, Zoom Ismail прислал ссылки спящие перед Севой, и мы смеялись. Ну, она, ну, короче, нет. Она читает, да, глаза как будто так будет. Нормально. Нет, нормально.
Нет, ну у нас секция такая,
Все, да, мы сейчас запустим. А вечером же там ГП делает финальную закрытие.
Подведи его, да, скажи.
Так, Вашенька, ну что, я так понимаю, все, в зале тут полностью мы все отработали, да? Ну, слава Богу, выдыхай. Валера, выдыхай. Я побежал дальше. У нас Костик еще минуты 2 часа.
Да, я знаю, я еще тут хорошо.
Отлично, вроде всем понравилось. Так. Да, 2 часа есть.